Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something truly wild. We're going to try to nap, not a productive nap, not a planned, optimized 20-minute power recharge with binaural beats and an accountability partner. Just a nap. The kind where you lie down, close your eyes, and don't calculate how many things you could be doing instead. But you're not just anyone. You are the perfectionist brain. And napping is not something you do. It's something you master. Or at least, that's what your internal committee has been whispering since noon. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying down. At least, you think you are. You're not quite sure, because you are currently analyzing the angle of your spine relative to the pillow and wondering if your alignment meets gold standard sleep posture. Your legs are too hot, or are your feet cold? Did you drink too much water? Not enough? You should have Googled optimal hydration to nap ratio before this. Too late now. You close your eyes. Immediately, a projection screen flickers on in the theater of your mind. The first slide reads, "Welcome. You're about to rest, probably incorrectly. Your anxiety intern, clipboard in hand, steps onto the mental stage. Good evening. Before we begin tonight's nap sequence, please complete the following evaluation. Did you do enough today? Could you have done more? Did you rest correctly last time? Have you earned rest, or are you just avoiding responsibility?" The questions aren't rhetorical. Your brain expects answers and charts, possibly a TED Talk. You roll over. The pillow is suddenly too flat, or is your head just too heavy with thoughts? Somewhere in the distance, your inner critic clears his throat, preparing for tonight's performance. He's got a new monologue. It's titled, "An Exhaustive Review of Everything You Could Have Said Differently in That Conversation 5 hours ago." You take a deep breath, not for calm, but to make sure you're doing it right. You try again. Inhale, hold, exhale. Your brain chimes in. Did you know exhaling longer than inhaling activates the parasympathetic nervous system? You're probably doing it wrong. You stare at the ceiling behind your eyelids. This was supposed to be simple. Lie down, close eyes, drift. But no, you, dear perfectionist brain, have decided to optimize rest. You remember that article you read once? Successful people nap strategically. Now your nap has a KPI, a benchmark, a performance metric. Your heart rate increases slightly. Not from stress, you tell yourself, just from enthusiasm about being efficient, while horizontal. And still, you're awake. Because trying to rest perfectly is like trying to relax while being graded on posture, attitude, and nap depth. It's okay. You're not alone. Thousands of overachieving brains are out there right now, lying in the dark, conducting full psychological audits on themselves instead of just sleeping. Tonight, we're going to tell those brains, thank you. You've done enough. You don't have to perfect this, even if you don't fully believe it yet, especially if you don't. Let's try again, a little slower this time. So, let's talk about the nap application form. Yes, it's imaginary, but your brain doesn't know that. It thinks it's required, like some sort of bureaucratic rite of passage before entering the temple of sleep. As soon as you lie down, the form appears on your mental desk, complete with carbon copies and a ballpoint pen that's somehow always slightly out of ink. Section 1. Have you completed all daily tasks? Your brain starts scanning like a border collie on espresso. Let's see. You did work, laundry, fed the pet, answered 2 emails, but not the important one, TM. And you watered half a plant. Half. You begin wondering if a plant forgives inconsistency. Section 2. Could you have done more? You pause. Technically, yes. Emotionally, you're running on fumes. Existentially, you don't even know anymore. Section 3. Please describe, in detail, why you deserve to rest. You freeze. This is the part that always gets you, because you weren't taught to rest. You were taught to achieve, to earn every break, to prove your value through output. And naps? Naps are a luxury, a reward, not a right. You sigh. The form doesn't seem impressed. You try to remember a time when rest was easy, when falling asleep didn't feel like evading the productivity police. Maybe childhood? Before your brain downloaded perfectionism, like some cursed software update. But you're not a child now. You're an adult with a job and the deadlines and to-do lists that regenerate like hydras. You glance back at the form. In tiny print at the bottom, it reads, Note, applications processed only after 2 a.m. and 3 hours of rumination. Ah, of course. You set the imaginary clipboard down and turn your pillow over. Cooler on this side. Maybe that'll help. Your body is still. Your mind is not. You're trying so hard to stop trying. And that, dear listener, is a full-time job. But something is shifting. Not much. Just enough. You exhale. This time not because you're supposed to, but because it happens. And somewhere in the background, your anxious intern quietly files the form away. Unapproved, but no longer urgent. And maybe that's enough for tonight. You now find yourself inside your mind, productivity control room. A place that somehow looks like a startup office, a war bunker, and a coffee shop, all fused into one overly efficient nightmare. There are monitors blinking softly in the dark, spreadsheets floating midair, sticky notes on every surface, a whiteboard labeled 2021 goals, still pending, hangs slightly askew. In the middle of it all stands your anxiety intern, still in their oversized blazer, furiously scribbling in a planner that's already color-coded by emotional urgency. Across the room, the You Could Be Doing More committee is convening. There's overthinking, taking minutes. There's imposter syndrome, sipping burnt coffee. And perfectionism. Oh, she is presenting a pie chart titled, Times You Didn't Try Hard Enough. Imagined versus real. You observe all this and wonder how you supposed to fall asleep when your brain is mid-board meeting. The projector flickers on with a PowerPoint presentation titled, Reasons You Probably Didn't Deserve to Lie Down Yet. Slide 1. You didn't reply to that one message. Slide 2. You could have folded the laundry more gracefully. Slide 3. Someone else would have done today better. You start to object. Quietly. I actually tried today. The room freezes. Perfectionism narrows her eyes. Define tried. You blink. And then, from the corner, another version of you appears. The soft self. The one who speaks like a cup of chamomile. The one who whispers truths when you finally get quiet enough to hear. That's enough, soft self says. Gently unplugging the projector, the committee begins to protest, but their voices are muffled now, like trying to argue underwater. You don't have to convince anyone tonight. You don't have to prove rest. You just have to breathe. You let your head sink into the pillow, and for the first time in a while, you don't care if it's the perfect angle. You let the air pass through your nose, down into your belly, and back out. Slow, low, quiet. Outside the control room, the stars begin to blink in your mental sky. And inside, the alarms go dim. The meeting is adjourned. Somewhere between your last breath and this one, a new figure walks into your mind's quiet hallways. The inner critic. He always arrives uninvited, but dressed like he owns the place. Part old professor, part bad podcast host, and always armed with a megaphone labeled constructive feedback. He clears his throat. Let's review today's performance, shall we? Before you can object, he begins. You know this routine. He doesn't raise his voice, but somehow it's louder than anything else in the room. You could have worded that text message better, he starts, flipping through a mental notepad. Your tone was off, probably misinterpreted. Also, why didn't you smile during that meeting? You looked tired. People notice that, you know. You shift in bed, not to respond, just to get away from the echo. But he follows. Let's not forget how you phrased that email. Hope this helps? Weak. Amateur. Why not go with, let me know if there's anything else I can do? More competent? More likable? He pauses. For someone who wants to rest, you're awfully relaxed about mediocrity. You breathe in. You remind yourself, this isn't truth. It's a habit, a reflex. Your brain isn't being cruel. It's trying, in its own clumsy way, to keep you safe. If you can preempt criticism, maybe you'll avoid shame. Maybe, if you just review everything enough, you'll finally get it right. But there's no right way to be a human. There's no scorecard for bedtime. So you picture the critic standing in the hallway of your thoughts, and then gently, kindly, you close the door on him. You don't slam it. You don't scream. You just close it. He can mutter all he wants. You don't have to invite him in tonight. And in the silence that follows, something remarkable happens. You yawn, a real one, not because you're failing, but because just maybe you're finally letting go. You roll over, again, for the 12th time, because apparently your body has now joined the perfectionist party. The pillow is too flat, then too fluffy, then too firm in that one specific spot that your neck is suddenly hyper-aware of. The sheet has a wrinkle that feels like sleeping on a speed bump. Your elbow itches, and then your knee joins in, because why suffer alone? You flip the blanket, cool, side down. That's supposed to fix it, right? You adjust, readjust the readjustment. And somehow, despite all this effort, you feel exactly 0.3% closer to sleeping, because you're not just lying down, you're auditioning. It's as if your body is being judged by an invisible panel of Olympic nap judges. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a little voice is announcing, and for tonight's event, the overthinking finalist will attempt the triple flip and fluff, followed by a routine of futile breathing exercises. Score 5.6. Lost points for excessive fidgeting and dramatic sighing. You let out another sigh, this one less dramatic and more defeated. And then you hear it, a whisper from your own mind, dripping with sarcasm. Maybe if we just hold our breath long enough, the existential dread will fall asleep first. You smile, just a little, because even your brain is tired of itself. You let your hand fall limply to your side. For once, you don't correct the angle. You don't readjust. You just let it be. Your breath evens out. Not because you're trying to breathe properly, but because effort is exhausting and you've run out of gas. The room isn't silent, It hums, that familiar, low, ambient sound that feels like quiet rain inside your chest. No alarms, no final evaluations, just stillness, with a hint of resignation. And oddly, that's comforting, because tonight, perfection is too tired to show up. And without it, maybe, just maybe, you'll finally rest. Sleep hygiene. It sounded so clinical the first time you heard it, like something that would require gloves and a checklist. And for you, dear perfectionist, it quickly evolved into a full-blown ritual. Less about rest, more about performance. You remember reading that article once? The one that said good sleep starts an hour before bed. Naturally, you turned it into a competition against yourself. Now, your nighttime routine includes brushing your teeth for the exact number of recommended seconds, stretching precisely 12 minutes, no screens, unless you're researching how to optimize sleep, journaling 3 things you're grateful for, plus 3 more, just in case, preparing your room to 67 degrees, checking humidity levels, adjusting lighting to sunset mode, and playing brown noise, not white noise, because that was so last month. Your brain sets timers for each step. You have spreadsheets, and still, you lie here, wide awake, because no matter how perfect the prep, you forgot the part where you tell your mind it doesn't to have to earn sleep. You remember standing in the kitchen earlier, measuring exactly 1.5 tablespoons of magnesium powder into a glass of filtered water, whispering to yourself, "This time, I'll do it right." You believed it. You still do, in a way. But right now, the ritual has ended. The lights are low, the air is just right, and your brain is still pacing in the hallway, wearing its what-if slippers and carrying a to-fix notebook. You want to tell it, it's okay. You did everything. You're allowed to stop now. But it's not fluent in stop. So you breathe, slowly, and then again, and maybe again. You don't try to sedate the mind. You just stop fueling the race. You tuck the sleep hygiene checklist under the pillow, along with all the pressure, and let it be imperfect. Tonight, your only task is to close your eyes, not like a monk, not like a biohacker, but like someone who is just tired. And that's more than enough. You're finally starting to settle when your brain opens a drawer labeled comparative sleep analysis. Because clearly, now is the perfect time to measure your rest against others. It starts innocently enough. A random thought, I bet people in Finland sleep better. Then, suddenly, a slideshow begins. Your coworker, who goes to yoga and always wakes up at 6 a.m., fully rested. That friend who drinks caffeine at 10 p.m. and still sleeps like a rock. People who accidentally nap on park benches in the middle of the day, like it's a feature, not a flaw. And you? You're here, adjusting your socks for the 4th time and contemplating if your dreams are too goal-oriented. You laugh, softly, because it's ridiculous and true. Your mind continues, flipping to the next slide, a bar graph. Title, Hours Slept versus Personal Value as a Human. And look at that. Your graph has more guilt than REM. You try to interrupt the mental presentation, but your brain has entered full corporate mode. There's now a pie chart called Percent of Sleep, disrupted by petty regrets. And there, in the corner, a tiny blinking ad. Buy this course on sleep optimization, now 30% off. You blink. This is satire. Your brain has become satire. You decide, in this moment, to treat it like a well-meaning, but misguided intern. One who watched too many TED Talks and not enough cartoons. You say to it lovingly, "We're not running a sleep marathon. There's no gold medal. We're just trying to nap. Remember?" It doesn't answer. But the slideshow pauses. Progress. You breathe again. Not like an achievement, just like a person. The graphs fade. The room softens. And your brain, your earnest, overachieving brain, sits quietly in the back row, finally resting its pointer stick. Tonight, the only metric that matters is this. Did you give yourself permission to try again tomorrow? Yes, you did. Just as the room begins to quiet down, another familiar voice sneaks in, tiptoeing through the back door of your mind. It's imposter syndrome. She's wearing pajamas, but somehow still manages to make you feel underdressed for your own nap. "Oh, hey," she says casually as she plops onto your mental couch. "Just wondering, are you sure you're resting the right way? Because I read somewhere that high-functioning adults don't need to actually nap unless it's part of a structured productivity model. You groan internally," she continues, smoothing out a blanket made of vague doubts. "I mean, you're just going to lie there while other people are learning new skills, evolving, building side hustles?" You roll onto your side, hoping she takes the hint. But no. "You know," she adds thoughtfully, "most people who sleep during the day are either monks or failures. I mean, no offense. Maybe you're a productive monk." You exhale, slowly, not because it fixes anything, but because it keeps you from yelling at your own psyche. She notices. "Don't worry," she says, pulling out a clipboard titled "Ways You Could Be Better." "I brought examples." You close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to escape. But then, another presence arrives. It's soft self again, carrying a warm mug of literally nobody asked. Soft self looks at imposter syndrome and says, "Shh," just that, gently, but firmly. And to your surprise, imposter syndrome actually pauses. She doesn't leave, but she wraps herself in that blanket of doubt and gets a little quieter. You feel your shoulders release some invisible weight. You didn't prove anything. You didn't overcome anything. But something inside you said, "Enough for now." And that's something. You don't have to silence every voice. You just have to choose who gets to speak the loudest. Tonight, that voice is the one saying, "You're okay." Even when you're not achieving anything. You let that sentence echo for a while. And for the first time, the nap feels closer. You glance at the clock. It's 12:08 a.m. You blink once, twice. It's 12:09 a.m. And now, the math begins. You start calculating how many hours of sleep you will get if, and that S a big if, you fall asleep right now, which you won't. Because now you're thinking about the fact that you're thinking about it. You do the math anyway. If I fall asleep in the next 5 minutes, that's 6 hours and 51 minutes of sleep, which is fine. That's okay. Not optimal, but okay. Not great, but functional. Then you think, what if I don't fall asleep until 1? Panic. That's only 6 hours. But some studies say 6 hours is survivable. Maybe. For astronauts or highly trained caffeine consumers. Okay. What if I don't sleep until 2? Emergency sirens begin in your frontal lobe. You start negotiating. Okay, I'll skip breakfast. I can snooze twice. I'll rearrange my meetings. Sleep until 8:03. Shower in 1.5 minutes. Eat a banana on the stairs. You look at the clock again. 12:12 a.m. 4 minutes lost to time-traveling anxiety. The irony? Of course, is that this math is the very reason you're not asleep. But your brain insists it's planning. You try to tell it, this is not helpful. It replies, shh, I'm trying to schedule the exact time I'll collapse tomorrow. You sigh. You roll over. You try to not think about how you're trying not to think. And then you laugh. A little, just a breath of a chuckle. Because you've been here before. You know this routine. And yet somehow, the futility of it is oddly charming. So you say to your brain, hey buddy, I love that you care. But right now, we're closed. You picture a little wooden sign hanging on the door of your thoughts. Mental calculations. Closed for the night. Please try again never. Your mind hesitates. Then, to your surprise, it listens. And for once, the numbers go quiet, just as the math subsides, and your breathing settles into something approaching calm. Your brain hits you with a curveball. The memory of an email you sent 4 days ago. At the time, it felt perfectly normal, kind, concise, professional. But now, at 12:17 a.m., your brain has decided it might have been catastrophic. Was the tone too cold? It wonders aloud. Did I say thanks too quickly? Was the period too passive-aggressive? You start to replay the exact wording. You visualize the email, sentence by sentence, like it's a crime scene. Every punctuation mark becomes a potential motive. Every line a questionable alibi. You try to remember if you used best, or warmly, or heaven forbid, just your name with no sign-off at all. Your chest tightens slightly, not because you did anything wrong, but because your brain is conducting a full audit on a digital postcard you sent half a week ago. You remind yourself that the recipient probably didn't even notice, that they likely read it while eating a granola bar, nodded, and moved on with their life. But your brain insists, let's imagine every worst-case scenario anyway, just in case. So now, instead of sleeping, you're mentally preparing a follow-up email to apologize for something you're not sure happened. You pause, and then, from somewhere within, that calm voice speaks again. Let it be awkward, it says. Let it be imperfect. Let it be a tiny mess that doesn't need a mop. You take a breath. You picture that email floating in a bottle, drifting out to sea. Not in a dramatic, cast away all my failures kind of way. Just gone. Like so many thoughts that once felt enormous and now feel small. The ocean doesn't judge the bottles it holds. It just carries them. So tonight, your ocean of a mind carries this email far away. No follow-ups. No damage control. Just sleep. Finally, sleep. You think you're finally in the clear. Your breath has slowed. Your pillow feels acceptable. And your anxiety intern hasn't made an announcement in at least 4 minutes. But just as you're drifting towards something soft and wordless, click. A drawer in the back of your mind opens. It creaks. You groan internally. You know that sound. It's the existential draft folder. Inside are all the half-written questions you didn't mean to think about tonight. Things like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing in life? Is this it? Do birds ever get tired of flying? Okay, maybe not that last one. But you never know. You don't want to go through the drawer, but it's already open, and your brain is now flipping through it like a bored librarian who just discovered the section on what keeps me up at night. File after file emerges. Unfinished projects. Conversations that went weird. In 2013, what if you're behind in life? Whatever that means. You roll over again. not to find a comfortable position, but to try and physically escape the metaphysical weight of your own thought spirals. The intern pops its head in, whispering, "Hey," not to alarm you, but we also forgot to figure out the meaning of existence. You throw a metaphorical pillow at them, but then something shifts. Soft self appears again, this time carrying a flashlight made of perspective. "We're not solving anything tonight," they say gently. "We're not filing. We're not organizing. We're not growing. We're just lying down." You blink. "That's allowed?" They nod. "Absolutely. Growth doesn't happen on command, and life doesn't get clearer at midnight." You let that settle. You picture the drawer gently closing, not locked, not avoided, just shelved for later. "Maybe tomorrow. Maybe never," you whisper. "Not now." And for once, your brain listens. The drawer disappears, and in its place, only silence. The good kind. Just as the existential drawer slides shut with a satisfying imaginary click, you feel something else arriving. Quiet at first, then steadily spreading. It's guilt. Not the sharp, shameful kind. No, this guilt is softer, polite, like a guest who brings their own tea bags and insists they done to want to be a bother. Still, it settles in, curling up beside you in the dark, like an unwelcome but well-mannered cat. Its message is subtle, but familiar. You didn't do enough today to feel this tired. You sigh. Here we go. It's that brand of guilt only perfectionists know. The kind that says, "Sure, you were busy, but were you productive?" The kind that turns rest into something you should apologize for. You try to reason with it. "I did try today," you say. "I kept going even when I was drained. I answered emails. I made decisions. I wore pants." Guilt shrugs. "Yeah, but you didn't finish your list." You exhale, because the list is 36 items long. Guilt raises an eyebrow. And your point is, you realize, in this moment, that guilt isn't logical. It's just persistent. A smoke alarm that goes off even when you're making toast. So instead of arguing, you do something radical. You let it stay. You stop trying to push it away or make it disappear. You say, "Okay, you can sit here, but I'm going to lie down anyway." Guilt looks confused. It doesn't know what to do when it's not being resisted. You let your body sink deeper into the mattress. Not because you finished everything, not because you earned it, but because you're alive and tired. And that's enough. Somewhere nearby, guilt yawns. You smile. It's learning too, as your limbs grow heavier and your breath becomes more like a lullaby. Another familiar mental mechanism creaks to life. It's the "just one more task" button. You didn't press it. At least, not on purpose. But somehow, the idea is already there, blinking softly like a notification you can't ignore. Maybe I should check my calendar. Did I write down that idea for next week? Ooh, I could reorganize my to-do list to reduce friction. And just like that, your brain starts doing chores in the middle of the night. Not physical chores, mental ones, which are even harder to stop because no one else can see them and say, "Go to bed." It's productivity disguised as insomnia. You imagine yourself tiptoeing around your mind, alphabetizing your priorities, and dusting off unfinished ambitions like a ghost maid with a clipboard. You could stop. You could. But the button is glowing. Then, from the corner of your brain, comes a quiet voice, gentle, half asleep, Maybe you don't need to be better right now. You pause. It's not a dramatic revelation. It's more like someone handing you a warm blanket when you didn't even realize you were cold. You think about the task you were just about to mentally tackle. You whisper to it, tomorrow, not as a delay, as an offering, a soft boundary. You let your hands unclench. You didn't even notice they were tight. Your feet uncurl. Your jaw slackens. The just one more task button fades to gray. You didn't complete anything just now. You didn't grow. You didn't optimize. You chose to rest. And that, for a perfectionist brain, is a revolution. You breathe in slowly, hold, exhale. Nothing happens. And that's the point. Something shifts. It's subtle, like the creak of a house settling, or the weight of a thought finally letting go. Inside your mind, the sleep department stirs. You didn't even know it existed, but now that you see it, it makes perfect sense. A quiet office tucked in a far corner of your consciousness, where the lights are always low and the chairs are made of exhaled sighs. Tonight, it's open for business. A gentle figure walks out. No clipboard, no headset, no buzz of urgency. Just calm. They look at your perfectionist brain like it's a tired child trying to carry groceries too big for its hands. Enough, they say, not as judgment, but as invitation. Enough analysis, enough effort, enough managing of your own internal board meetings. The sleep department doesn't negotiate. It doesn't offer advice. It simply shows up when all the other departments have exhausted themselves. You feel something inside you lean toward it like a plant turning toward a warm window. The anxiety intern looks up from its messy desk. Slowly, without drama, it begins to gather papers, not frantically, but gently, as if it's come to understand something vital. This moment isn't about control. It's about release. You picture it putting a small sign on the desk, gone sleeping, for real this time, and then it walks away, closing the office door behind it. The control room is still, the lights dim, and your mind, for the first time in what feels like days, doesn't resist the quiet. It joins it. You're not there yet, but you're close. Close enough to feel the shape of rest forming around you like a familiar coat. Soft, heavy, safe. You take your first real breath of the night. Not a performance breath, not a reset breath, just air. In, out. And in that moment, something rare happens. You stop monitoring yourself. Your brain isn't measuring the rhythm or labeling the depth. It is not calculating lung capacity or comparing you to a meditation app voice from 2017. It is just breathing. You've reached the point beyond thought, where awareness starts to dissolve into sensation. You're still here, but you're lighter, less tangled, like someone slowly peeling away layers of armor they forgot they were wearing. No alarm bells, no last-minute to-do lists. Just your body sinking into the mattress like it's being absorbed by gravity itself. Even the inner critic is silent, not gone, but curled up on the metaphorical floor, like an overworked librarian finally taking a nap on a pile of overdue books. You hear only the softest of sounds now, a hum, a heartbeat, maybe the gentle flutter of eyelids growing heavier by the second. It's not dramatic. No spotlight, no curtain drop, just the quiet, miraculous moment when your perfectionist brain realizes it doesn't need to fix the present, or the past, or the pillow. You are enough. You are safe. And finally, Finally, you are free to rest. Let's slow everything down now, even slower than before. Let your next breath take its time. No need to rush, no need to impress. Let your jaw soften just a little more, and if your hands are clenched, this is the part where you let them melt open. You've done well, not because of everything you accomplished today, not because you navigated your inner chaos with grace, but simply because you made it here, right here, in this moment, with your body resting, your mind softening, and your breath guiding you deeper into stillness. There's nothing else to prove. No next task, no mental agenda that can't wait until the sun returns. Tonight, perfection is not the goal. Comfort is. Permission is. Peace is. Let yourself become heavier now, like you're sinking into warm sand. Let gravity hold you. Let sleep wrap around you without resistance. Let your thoughts fade into static, then into silence. If your mind starts wandering again, that's okay. Just bring it back to this. You are safe. You are held. You are allowed to rest. And maybe, just maybe, that's all you ever needed to hear. Good night, friend. Sweet dreams. You've crossed a threshold now, not into sleep. At least, not yet. But into something gentler. Something between consciousness and calm. Like floating on your back in a pool of your own forgiveness. There's no urgency here, no mental alarms, just a spaciousness you haven't felt in a long time. You picture your mind now as a large, quiet library after hours. The lights are low, the aisles are endless, but for once, you're not rushing through them, searching for answers. You're just wandering, browsing, letting titles catch your eye without needing to read the whole book. There's one shelf labeled, Things You Thought Were Disasters but Turned Out Fine. It's full. Another says, Decisions You Made That Didn't Ruin Everything. Also full. You smile. In the corner, your inner perfectionist is sitting in a beanbag chair, not defeated, just resting its eyes. Even it knows there's nothing left to optimize tonight. You don't force sleep. You just stop resisting the idea that you're allowed to want it. You don't will your body into stillness. You just let it be as still as it wants. You don't silence your thoughts. You just stop feeding them. And slowly, moment by moment, breath by breath, you begin to understand something radical. Rest is not a reward. It's not a weakness. It's not something you earn with pain. It is a birthright, a biological whisper, a soft yes from the universe that says, you don't have to do anything right now except be. You are being. You are breathing. And tonight, that is more than enough. The room of your mind is dim now, not dark, just peacefully muted, like candlelight flickering through the curtains of an evening that doesn't expect anything from you. You're not asleep, but you're not entirely awake either. You're in that delicious in-between place where reality becomes softer around the edges and time starts to forget its job. It's here, in this half-dream space, that a strange little character shuffles in. He's wearing a wrinkled suit, oversized glasses, and a tie printed with checkboxes. Meet the taskmaster. He clears his throat and approaches your imaginary bed with a clipboard in hand. Sorry to disturb, he says politely, but I just realized we didn't properly archive today's progress. You blink slowly. We've left some items emotionally unresolved, he adds, and there are feelings still pending acknowledgement. You say nothing, not because you re-annoyed, but because the taskmaster is adorable in the way only anxious metaphors can be. He looks over his list. Did you overthink anything productively? Did you maximize your discomfort efficiently? Did you wring all remaining joy from that brief moment of stillness earlier? You reach over and gently take the clipboard from him. You fold it in half, set it down on the nightstand of your mind, and say, "Shh." The taskmaster blinks. But, reflection. You smile. Tomorrow. He pauses. For once, he doesn't argue. He just sits cross-legged on the metaphorical rug, shrugs off his blazer, and starts playing with a paperclip. Maybe even he's tired of micromanaging your inner world. You close your eyes again. Your breath carries you further from the shore, and the taskmaster, like so many other parts of you, finally rests, not because everything is complete, but because you are. The landscape of your mind has changed again. Now it feels like a quiet meadow, dusk settling softly over everything. The grass doesn't grow in perfect rows. The flowers don't bloom on cue, but somehow it's beautiful, unruly, peaceful in its imperfection. You walk barefoot through it, slowly, not because you're trying to be mindful, but because rushing would break the spell. Behind you, the usual suspects, worry, criticism, overthinking, trail along at a distance, not menacingly, more like bored coworkers waiting to see if anything interesting will happen. They're quieter now. Your perfectionist brain is finally growing tired of its own expectations. It doesn't want another self-improvement plan. It doesn't want to be a better version of itself right now. It just wants to sit down and watch the sky change colors without needing a reason. So that's what you do. You find a soft patch of moss in the middle of this imaginary meadow. You sit, you breathe, you notice the sounds. Distant wind, maybe a soft flute, playing from nowhere, the occasional rustle of a leaf that's not in a hurry to fall. A tiny sign appears beside you, staked into the ground with the simplest message: you're allowed to be unremarkable sometimes. You stare at it, not because it's profound, but because it's so beautifully true. In this world that tells you to always stand out, always strive, always optimize, rest becomes rebellion. Stillness becomes sacred. You lie back, arms open. The sky darkens into stars, and for the first time in a long time, you don't want to be anywhere else. You're not chasing. You're not fixing. You're not becoming. You're just here, being, breathing, healing, quietly. Back in the waking world, though just barely, you shift beneath your blanket and realize something odd. Your brain is bored, not restless, not panicked, just quietly, peacefully, bored. And for someone like you, whose inner world is usually filled with spreadsheets of guilt and PowerPoints of self-improvement, boredom is kind of a miracle. Your mind looks around. No crisis, no urgent alerts, nothing left to optimize. Just now. It doesn't quite know what to do with itself. It tries, briefly, to stir the pot. What about that thing you said in 7th grade? It offers. You raise one eyebrow, mentally. Never mind, it mutters. The anxious intern returns briefly, looking confused. I triple-checked the checklist, they say, and there's literally nothing left to ruminate on. You nod, and then you do something wild. You invite the boredom to stay. You fluff a mental pillow and say, "Here, rest with me." And boredom does. It yawns, curls up, and becomes something softer, something closer to stillness. You feel it seep into your muscles, this quiet contentment with not doing, not striving, not chasing clarity or closure, just existing, like a tree, like a cat, like a cloud. You picture yourself as all three at once, rooted, curled up, and floating. There's nothing to fix, nothing to understand, nothing to win. And in this moment of boredom, of nothingness, of unremarkable peace, you finally feel the outline of a sleep pressing closer, not aggressively, not suddenly, but like an old friend tiptoeing in barefoot, offering no words, only presence. And that's all you need. Just presence. Just now. Just this. You're further now. Not quite asleep, but drifting in that golden fog where everything makes sense and nothing really matters. A thought begins, then fades, mid-sentence. A memory peeks in, then changes its mind and tiptoes away. You're floating through the edges of consciousness like a leaf on slow-moving water. It's here, in this gentle place, that a small, peculiar creature appears. Your old friend Doubt. Not the loud, dramatic doubt that storms into your life during big decisions. No, this one's smaller, softer, wearing a knit scarf and mismatched socks. Hey, it says sheepishly, just checking in. You smile. Doubt shuffles its feet. I know you've been working really hard. Just didn't want you to forget to double-check everything forever. You nod slowly. Thanks, but not tonight. Doubt looks surprised. It glances around the landscape of your mind, the stars overhead, the softness of your breathing, the complete lack of looming deadlines. It sits down beside you. Do you think it's okay? It asks, to not be worried for a while. You think about it, and then you say, yes. Doubt nods. It doesn't leave, but it does quiet down, like a roommate learning to tiptoe. You feel your body getting heavier in the best way, like your muscles are melting back into gravity's embrace. Your thoughts become mist. Your mind becomes sky. And doubt, it pulls a blanket over itself and yawns. You're not fixed. You're not finished. But you're not falling apart either. You are resting. You are healing. You are finally allowed to let go. And with that release, something deeper opens. A doorway to true rest. You don't step through. You drift. And the world at last lets you. You are drifting now, further still, into that quiet ocean where the boundaries between thoughts dissolve and the current no longer asks where you re-going. Your body is weightless, not because it has no mass, but because it no longer needs to carry everything at once. The timelines, the goals, the unfinished sentences, they've all slipped quietly overboard. Floating beside you is a suitcase. You didn't pack it. It's just here. Curious? You open it. Inside are all the rules you've been carrying, folded neatly like overwashed shirts. Some of them you recognize. Be productive or be forgotten. If it's not excellent, it's nothing. Rest is what comes after success, not before. You run your fingers over them. Some are frayed. Some were never yours to begin with. You consider tossing them out into the sea. But instead, you do something softer. You fold them up again, gently this time, and leave the suitcase open. Because you're allowed to outgrow things quietly. You don't need a declaration. You don't need a clean break. You just need space. Space to say, this rule helped me once, but maybe I don't need it forever. Your breath deepens. The suitcase begins to sink. Not forcefully, just slowly, respectfully. The rules don't protest. Even they seem ready to rest. You watch until it disappears beneath the waves of your subconscious, joining the millions of other things you've carried for far too long. You are lighter, not because you lost anything vital, but because you stopped gripping things that never helped you float. A star blinks above, a muscle in your jaw releases, and your mind whispers the most radical truth of all. You don't have to try so hard to be okay. Tonight, okay is already here, and it's wrapped in the quiet arms of surrender. There's something different about this stretch of stillness. You can feel it in your shoulders, no longer coiled like overwound clocks. You can feel it in your chest, no longer auditioning to prove it's expanding correctly. You can feel it in your thoughts, unfolding now like lazy clouds instead of high-speed data packets. You've landed somewhere soft, and as you look around your internal world, you notice a bench. Just a simple bench, wooden, worn, waiting. You sit. Because what else is there to do? You don't meditate. You don't journal. You don't reflect on your inner child. You just sit, and somehow that is enough. Your perfectionist brain walks by, briefcase in hand, tie a little loosened now. It gives you a nod. No critique, no comment, just acknowledgement. A moment later, your anxious intern shuffles past, too, clutching a now empty clipboard. I filed everything, they mumble. For now, at least. You nod. Good. They sit on the ground nearby. Everyone's tired, and no one is pretending otherwise. The mind chatter is now more like mind whispers, echoing in an empty hall where the janitor has already turned off most of the lights. And that's okay. You sit on the bench. You breathe, not to improve anything, not to heal anything, not to check anything off a list. You just breathe, because your body knows how. And that knowledge, the deeply human, beautifully simple rhythm of inhale, exhale, is more trustworthy than anything your overactive brain could invent. The night is quiet now. Your thoughts are sleepy. Your perfectionism is drowsy. Even your inner critic is snoring gently in the corner. You don't need to push toward sleep. It's already walking toward you, slow and certain, like a friend who knows the way home. And so, here you are, still on that metaphorical bench, watching the various departments of your mind slowly pack up for the night, like office workers who finally accepted that tomorrow's problems can wait until, well, tomorrow. Your perfectionist brain has loosened its tie completely now. It's sitting a few benches over, scrolling through its phone, not checking emails, just watching videos of cats doing perfectly ordinary cat things. No optimization required. The anxiety intern has found a stress ball somewhere and is squeezing it rhythmically, not out of stress, but because the texture is oddly satisfying. They've discovered that sometimes the best way to handle anxiety is not to solve it. It's just to give it something mindless to do. Even your inner critic has pulled out a worn paperback novel, something with a ridiculous cover, a romance, maybe, or a mystery where the detective solves crimes with the help of a psychic parrot, the kind of book that doesn't require annotation or analysis, just pure, uncomplicated escapism. And you're watching all of this with the gentle amusement of someone who's finally realized that their mind is basically a quirky sitcom cast, all trying their best in their own weird ways. The sleep department representative walks by again, this time wheeling a cart filled with warm blankets and cups of something that smells like lavender and forgiveness. Anyone need anything? They ask. Your perfectionist brain raises its hand slightly. Actually, yes. Is there a manual? for how to stop wanting to fix everything all the time. The sleep representative smiles. We don't really do manuals here, but we have this. They hand over a mug that reads, Progress, not perfection, on one side, and actually, forget progress too, on the other. Your anxiety intern perks up. Ooh, do you have anything for the constant feeling that I've forgotten something important? They're handed a small note that simply says, if it was really important, you'd remember it when it matters. Even your inner critic looks up from its trashy novel. I don't suppose you have anything for chronic overanalysis? The sleep representative chuckles and hands over a bookmark that reads, Not all thoughts require a response. You watch this exchange and realize something profound is happening. Your mental inhabitants aren't being silenced or banished. They're being seen, acknowledged, given exactly what they need to relax. You take a sip from your own cup. It appeared without you asking, and taste something warm and indefinable. Not quite tea, not quite hot chocolate, more like liquid comfort. Around you, the mental landscape continues to shift. The harsh fluorescent lights have been replaced with string lights that twinkle sporadically. Some bulbs work, some don't, and that's perfectly fine. The corporate office aesthetic has melted away, revealing something more like a cozy coffee shop after hours. Mismatched furniture, soft music playing from speakers you can't see, and that comfortable hum of people who don't need to impress each other. Your perfectionist brain has started doodling in the margins of its planner, not schedules or goals, just little flowers and geometric shapes that serve no purpose except to please the hand that draws them. The anxiety intern has struck up a conversation with someone new, your inner wisdom, who's been sitting quietly in the corner this whole time, knitting something that might be a scarf or might just be a very long rectangle of peace. I keep thinking I should be doing more, the intern confesses. Inner wisdom doesn't look up from the knitting. More of what? I don't actually know. They drop a stitch, shrug, and keep going. Sometimes more is just more tired. You smile at this exchange, because it's true, isn't it? Sometimes the achievement we're chasing is just exhaustion wearing a fancy hat. The inner critic has abandoned its book entirely and is now playing what appears to be mental solitaire. Every time it wins a hand, it doesn't celebrate or analyze its strategy. It just shuffles and starts again. You know, it says to no one in particular. This is actually quite relaxing. Your perfectionist brain looks up from its doodles. What is? Not keeping score. There's a moment of contemplative silence, not the heavy, loaded kind that demands profound insights. Just quiet, like a pause between songs that's exactly as long as it needs to be. You set down your cup and notice something you haven't felt in a while. Boredom. Real, genuine, uncomplicated boredom. Not the restless kind that demands you find something productive to do. Not the guilty kind that whispers about wasted time. Just the peaceful acknowledgement that right now, in this moment, nothing particularly interesting is happening. And that's wonderful. You lean back against the bench and watch as your various mental departments continue their quiet evening activities. Some are reading, some are chatting, some are just sitting and breathing. No one is trying to solve anything. No one is optimizing their downtime or practicing mindfulness with intention. They're just being. Your anxiety in turn yawns, a real, genuine yawn that seems to surprise them. Oh, they say, covering their mouth. I didn't know I could do that without scheduling it. Inner wisdom chuckles. Your body knows things your mind is still learning. Another pause. Comfortable. Unhurried. The sleep department representative appears one more time, now wheeling a cart of actual blankets. Not metaphorical ones. The kind you can feel, even in your imagination. Last call, they announce gently. Anyone who'd like to transition to actual sleep is welcome to follow me. Some of your mental inhabitants look up with interest. Others are already too comfortable to move. Your perfectionist brain raises its hand tentatively. Is there a right way to follow you? Just walk, or stumble, or crawl, if that's what feels natural. They consider this. No technique? No breathing pattern? No specific body position? Nope. Just come as you are. And so, slowly, gently, your various selves begin to stand up from their comfortable spots. Not all at once, not in any particular order. Some stretch first, some gather their things. Some just walk directly toward the sleep representative with the kind of trust that only comes after a long day of trying. You realize you're still sitting on the bench, not because you're resistant, not because you're not ready, just because this moment, watching your mind prepare for rest, without stress, without performance, without the need to get it right, feels worth witnessing. Your inner critic approaches the bench. Are you coming? You nod. In a moment. Take your time, they say, and mean it. We'll wait. And they do. All of them. Your perfectionist brain with its loosened tie, your anxiety intern with its empty clipboard, your inner critic with its dog-eared novel, and inner wisdom still knitting that endlessly long rectangle of peace. They wait not because they have to, but because waiting has become another form of care. You stand up slowly, not because the bench is uncomfortable, but because sleep is finally calling in a voice loud enough to hear over the gentle murmur of a mind at peace. You walk toward the sleep department, representative, surrounded by the quiet footsteps of thoughts that no longer need to run. And as you walk, you notice your breathing has changed again. Not deeper, not more controlled, just more trusting. Each exhale releases something you didn't know you were holding. Each inhale welcomes something you forgot you deserved. Step by step, breath by breath, you move toward the doorway that leads from thinking to dreaming. Your mental entourage follows behind, no longer rushing, no longer dragging their feet, just walking together toward the soft, welcoming darkness that requires nothing from you except your presence. The sleep representative holds open a door made of something softer than wood, quieter than silence. Beyond it, you catch a glimpse of that space between awakeness and dreams, where stories write themselves, where solutions appear without being forced, where rest finally feels like coming home to yourself. You pause at the threshold, not from hesitation, but from gratitude for your complicated, caring, overachieving mind, for its willingness to finally, gently, let go. You step through, and on the other side, sleep is waiting, not as a destination to reach, but as a friend who's been there all along, patient and kind, ready to wrap you in the softest rebellion of all, the radical act of doing absolutely nothing except dream. The door closes behind you with the whisper of a page turning, and in that space beyond effort, beyond analysis, beyond the need to be anything other than peacefully, completely yourself, you rest. Good night, fellow perfectionist. Sweet, unoptimized dreams. But wait, because of course there's a but wait. Just as you've settled into that soft space, beyond the door, just as your breathing has found its natural rhythm, like a cat finding the perfect sunny spot. Your brain sends up a tiny, polite notification. Not an alarm, not a siren, more like someone gently tapping a water glass with a spoon at a dinner party. Ding. "Excuse me," says a new voice. Soft, apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt. I'm the Department of Last Minute Revelations. I just wanted to mention that you might have left the stove on." You blink slowly in the darkness. "Did I?" you wonder aloud. "Probably not," admits the department. "But I thought you should know that we've scheduled a 3 a.m. panic session about it, just in case." Your anxiety intern, who is already halfway to dreamland, perks up. "Oh, should I take notes?" "No," says inner wisdom, not even opening their eyes. "The stove is fine. You checked it twice before bed, remember?" "But what if," begins the Department of Last Minute Revelations. "Shh," interrupts the sleep representative, appearing with a spray bottle labeled Reality Check. They give a gentle spritz in the direction of escalating worry. The Department of Last Minute Revelations sneezes and looks confused. "Oh, right. The stove. It's probably fine. Definitely fine," you agree, settling back into your pillow of peace. But now that one department has spoken up, others feel emboldened to share their late-night insights. The Department of Social Analysis clears its throat. "While we're all here, I've been thinking about that conversation you had 3 weeks ago with Sarah. When you said, 'sounds good,' but maybe you should have said, 'sounds great.' The enthusiasm level was suboptimal." Your inner critic looks up from its comfortable reading nook. "Are we really doing this now?" "I just think," continues social analysis, "that Sarah might have interpreted 'sounds good' as lukewarm support, rather than genuine excitement about her pottery class." You turn over in bed, both real and metaphorical. "Sarah invited me to see her pottery. I went. I bought a mug. I use it every morning. Sarah is fine." "But the initial response was fine too," completes inner wisdom, not even looking up from their endless knitting. "Sometimes 'sounds good' means 'sounds good.' Revolutionary concept, I know." A brief silence falls over your mental landscape. The kind of pause where everyone realizes they might be overthinking the overthinking. Then, from somewhere in the back, a tiny voice pipes up. "I'm the Department of Weird Body Awareness," it announces, "and I'd like to report that your left shoulder blade feels strange. You shift slightly." "Strange how?" "Just aware. Like it's never been a shoulder blade before, and doesn't quite know how to do it right." Your perfectionist brain, which had been dozing against a mental filing cabinet, opens one eye. "Should we research proper shoulder blade positioning?" "No," you say firmly. "My shoulder blade is doing fine. It's been shouldering and blading successfully for years." The Department of Weird Body Awareness considers this. "Okay, but now your right big toe feels like it's too big, or maybe too toe-y." A collective sigh echoes through your mental space. The sleep representative reappears, this time wheeling a cart labeled "Perspective Adjustments, free while you rest." They hand out small cards to each department. To last-minute revelations. Most worries shrink significantly in daylight. To social analysis, people are usually thinking about their own conversations, not analyzing yours. To weird body awareness, bodies are inherently strange. This is normal. And to you, they hand a card that simply reads, "You don't have to have the perfect inner monologue to fall asleep." You hold the card and feel something release in your chest, not dramatically, just a small unclenching, like a fist that finally remembers it doesn't need to stay closed. The various departments settle back into their corners, not silenced, but somehow satisfied, like children who just needed to be heard before they could settle down. Your perfectionist brain yawns, a genuine, uncalculated yawn. You know, it says drowsily, maybe falling asleep doesn't need to be an achievement. Your anxiety in turn nods, already half asleep against a pile of abandoned to-do lists. Maybe it can just be, what happens next? And in this moment, something shifts in the atmosphere of your mind. Not a grand revelation, not a breakthrough that will change everything. Just a small acknowledgement that tonight, you don't have to be the CEO of your own consciousness. You can just be a person, lying in bed, learning to let go of the day one breath at a time. The mental landscape around you seems to exhale. Streetlights dim, office buildings power down. Even the Department of Last-Minute Revelations hangs up a small sign, gone fishing, back tomorrow. Maybe you feel your body sinking deeper into the mattress, not with the weight of exhaustion, but with the lightness that comes from finally setting down a load you didn't realize you were carrying. Your breath finds its own rhythm, not the breathing technique from that app you downloaded, but never used. Just your lungs doing what they know how to do, paired with your heart beating its steady, unoptimized rhythm. Around you, your various mental departments begin to fade, not disappearing, just becoming as quiet as background music in a coffee shop, present but not demanding attention. And you're drifting now between the shores of consciousness and sleep, in that strange, soft territory where thoughts become dreams and dreams become rest. But just as you're about to slip completely into the gentle current of sleep, another tiny voice speaks up. Hi, it says politely. I'm the Department of Random Physical Sensations. I just wanted to mention that somewhere on your body, I can't quite pinpoint where, something itches. You don't even open your eyes. You just smile. Because at this point, you're not fighting the current anymore. You're floating with it, random itches and all. Thank you for the update, you murmur to the department. I'll consider it in the morning. And somehow, that's enough. The itch fades into the general background symphony of having a body, that constant, quiet hum of sensation that you usually tune out, but sometimes becomes inexplicably noticeable at bedtime. Your breathing deepens, not through effort, but through surrender. And finally, the gentle tide of sleep begins to carry you away from the busy shore of your thoughts, toward the quiet islands where rest lives, patient and unhurried, waiting to wrap you in the softest darkness of all. In this drifting space between thinking and dreaming, you find yourself in what can only be described as your mind's lost and found department. It's a peculiar place, part magical closet, part nostalgic attic, part cosmic thrift shop. Shelves line the walls, filled with things you've misplaced over the years. Not just objects, but feelings, memories, versions of yourself you forgot you used to be. The Department of Lost and Found is run by a gentle figure wearing a cardigan made of forgotten daydreams and glasses that reflect childhood summers. They smile as you wander in. Oh, hello, they say warmly. We've been holding some things for you. They hand you a small box labeled Moments You Thought Were Failures, but Were Actually Learning. You peek inside. There's that time you tried to make dinner for friends and burned everything, but everyone ended up ordering pizza and laughing until their stomachs hurt. The job interview, where you stammered through every answer, but somehow got hired because your nervousness came across as authenticity. The art project in 5th grade that looked nothing like you intended, but made your teacher cry because it was so unexpectedly beautiful. We also have this, says the department, pulling out a jar filled with what looks like golden dust. The label reads, "Confidence you had as a child before you learned to doubt everything." You hold the jar up to the soft light. Inside, you can see flashes of yourself at 7, singing made-up songs at full volume. At 10, convinced you could definitely become a marine biologist, astronaut, chef. At 12, writing stories about talking animals who solved crimes with the unshakable belief that of course this was destined for publication. "Can I have this back?" you ask. The department smiles. "You never really lost it. You just learned to keep it in storage. Maybe it's time for it to come out of the closet again." As you continue browsing through the lost and found, you discover more treasures. A music box that plays the soundtrack to dreams you had before you learned they were impractical. A snow globe containing all the times you helped someone without expecting recognition. A book titled "Things You Did Right That Nobody Noticed, Including You." It's surprisingly thick. In one corner, there's a small, weathered sign. "Free to Good Home." One slightly used sense of wonder. You pick it up. It's lighter than you expected, but somehow feels substantial in your hands. "That one's been here a while," notes the department. Previous owner was convinced they outgrew it around age 14. But between you and me, I don't think anyone really outgrows wonder. They just forget where they put it. You tuck the sense of wonder into your mental pocket next to the jar of childhood confidence. As you prepare to leave the lost and found, the department calls after you. Oh, and there's one more thing. They hand you a small, worn envelope. A letter from your past self to your future self. You wrote it in your head years ago, but never remembered to read it. You open the envelope. Inside, in handwriting that somehow looks like your voice, it says, "Dear me, I hope you remember that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to be proud of small things, like making someone smile, or finishing a book, or choosing kindness, when it would be easier not to. I hope you remember that perfectionism isn't the same as excellence, and that excellence isn't the same as worth. I hope you're gentle with the parts of yourself that still worry too much, because they're trying to protect something precious. And I hope you remember that growing up doesn't mean growing harder. Some of the best adults I know are just kids who learned to pay taxes. Love, the you who still believed in magic." You fold the letter carefully and tuck it away with your other reclaimed treasures. As you leave the lost and found, your arms full of forgotten pieces of yourself, you notice something different about your mental landscape. It feels warmer somehow, more colorful, like someone just opened the curtains in a room that had been dim for too long. Your perfectionist brain, now wearing the slightly too big cardigan of wonder, looks confused but pleased. "I feel different, like I remember something I forgot I knew." Your anxiety in turn is examining the jar of childhood confidence with fascination. Is it legal to have this much self-assurance without a permit? Even your inner critic seems softer, holding the book of unnoticed accomplishments like it's made of precious things. The sleep representative appears once more, this time accompanied by what looks like a lullaby in physical form, all soft edges and gentle melodies. Ready for the next part of the journey? They ask. You nod, cradling your recovered treasures, because now you remember something important. Sleep isn't just about ending the day. It's about trusting that you'll wake up tomorrow still you, still worthy, still capable of small magics, still deserving of rest, not because you earned it, but because you exist. And that, dear dreamer, is enough. The lullaby wraps around you like a blanket made of moonlight and exhaled wishes. And finally, softly, surely, you let yourself fall asleep. But of course, sleep for the perfectionist brain is never quite so simple. Even in the realm of dreams, your mind has opinions about how this should go. You find yourself in what appears to be a celestial waiting room. The chairs are made of clouds that somehow support your weight, and the soft instrumental music plays from speakers shaped like sleeping kittens. A receptionist sits behind a desk made of crystallized starlight. They look up from their paperwork with a knowing smile. Here for the premium dream experience? They ask. You blink. I just wanted to sleep. Oh, honey. They chuckle gently. With your brain, nothing's ever just anything. We have several packages available tonight. They begin pulling out brochures from thin air. The anxiety special. Relive every embarrassing moment from high school, but this time with bonus features like talking backwards and showing up to math class in pajamas. The processing package. Work through every unresolved emotion from the past 6 months via interpretive dream dance. No experience necessary. Confusion guaranteed. The perfectionist's paradise. A dream where everything goes exactly as planned, which will somehow feel more stressful than if things went wrong. You look at the options and feel a familiar tightness in your chest. Is there maybe a basic rest option? The receptionist's expression softens. Actually, yes. It's not on the menu because most minds don't think they deserve it. They pull out a simple, handwritten card. The nothing special, just sleep. No plot, no symbolism, no life lessons. Just your brain getting to rest like every other mammal on the planet. You stare at the card. That's allowed? More than allowed. It's encouraged. The receptionist stamps the card with a seal that looks like a yawn. Welcome to radical ordinariness. As you're led through a door labeled Dreams for Recovering Overachievers, you enter what can only be described as the most boring place your imagination has ever conceived. It's a room that's just a room. Beige walls, a comfortable bed, the sound of gentle rain outside a window that shows nothing particularly interesting. No flying, no talking animals, no high school classrooms where you've forgotten your locker combination. Just rest. Your perfectionist brain looks around, confused. Should I be analyzing the metaphorical significance of the beige walls? No, you hear yourself say. Tonight, beige walls are just beige walls. For the first time in years, your dreams don't star you as the protagonist of an epic adventure, the victim of an elaborate anxiety spiral, or the solver of impossible puzzles. Instead, you dream of simple things. A cup of tea that stays exactly the right temperature. Reading a book where you don't feel compelled to remember every detail. Sitting in a garden where the flowers grow however they want, and that's perfectly fine. Walking down a street where you do not run into anyone you know, and therefore do not have to perform any version of yourself. These dreams don't symbolize anything. They don't reveal hidden truths about your psyche. They're just nice. And somewhere in the deep, restorative cycles of this ordinary sleep, your brain begins to remember something it forgot, that it doesn't always have to be productive. Even in unconsciousness, your various mental departments settle into their own restful states. The anxiety, in turn, dreams of filing papers in an office where all the deadlines are actually suggestions and everyone speaks in inside voices. Your inner critic dreams of reading movie reviews where every film gets exactly 3 out of 5 stars and the reviews are just, "It was fine." Your perfectionist brain dreams of a world where good enough is printed on motivational posters. And you dream of nothing and everything. You dream of Tuesday afternoons and rainy mornings and the sound of someone humming in another room. You dream the dreams of mammals and trees and ocean waves, circular, purposeless, restorative dreams that ask nothing of you except that you breathe and rest and let time pass without measuring it. Hours flow by like honey, thick and golden and sweet. In the deepest part of the night, when even your subconscious has stopped trying to teach you lessons, something remarkable happens. You sleep like you did when you were 7 years old, before optimization, before metrics, before the weight of becoming the best version of yourself. You sleep like sleep is just sleep. And it is. Somewhere in the small hours, between dreams that mean nothing and dreams that mean everything, you find yourself in your mind's quality control department. It's a surprisingly modest office, more like a cozy library than the high-tech facility you might expect. The lighting is warm, the furniture is worn, but comfortable, and there's a persistent smell of coffee and old books. The quality control manager is exactly who you'd expect, a kindly figure in a cardigan, wearing reading glasses and holding a mug that says, "World's okayest supervisor." "Oh, hello," they say, looking up from a ledger. "I was just reviewing tonight's sleep performance." Your heart speeds up slightly. Even in dreams, evaluations make you nervous. "How did I do?" you ask tentatively. The manager flips through some pages, making thoughtful noises. "Well, let's see. You tossed approximately 7 times, well within normal parameters. You briefly worried about tomorrow's meeting around 2:30 a.m., but that resolved itself naturally. Oh, and you had that lovely dream about organizing socks that weren't actually your socks." They look up with a gentle smile. "Overall, completely adequate." You blink. Adequate, beautifully adequate, wonderfully ordinary, perfectly imperfect. They close the ledger with satisfaction. You slept like a human being instead of a productivity machine. Something about this praise, if you can call it praise, feels strangely liberating. "What about the grade?" you ask. "The score?" The manager looks confused. "Score? Oh, my dear. We don't score sleep. That would be like scoring a sunset or grading a hug. Some things exist just to be experienced." They stand up and guide you to a window that looks out onto your mental landscape. In the gentle pre-dawn light, you can see all your various departments and functions, not frantically working, but simply being. Your anxiety intern is playing fetch with a dog made of manageable thoughts. Your inner critic is tending a small garden where nothing grows in straight lines. Your perfectionist brain is cloud watching, occasionally pointing out shapes, but not feeling compelled to catalog them. "You know," says the quality control manager, leaning against the windowsill, "most people think rest is the absence of doing, but really, it's the presence of being. You watch your mental inhabitants in their peaceful morning activities and feel something you have not felt in a long time. Contentment. Not happiness, not achievement, not relief. Just contentment. Can I ask you something? You say to the manager. Of course. How do I remember this? This feeling? When I wake up and the day starts demanding things from me again? The manager smiles and hands you a small object from their desk. It looks like a worry stone, smooth and warm, but when you hold it up to the light, you can see tiny words etched into its surface. You already know how to rest. You're doing it right now. Keep this, they say, not as a reminder to be perfect at resting. That defeats the purpose. Just as a reminder that rest is always available, even in the middle of chaos, even for 30 seconds, even if you're not good at it. You pocket the stone and feel its subtle weight, not heavy, just present. As dawn begins to break in your mental landscape, painting everything in soft golds and peachy pinks, you realize something profound. You've made it through another night, not by conquering your thoughts or optimizing your rest or achieving some perfect state of calm, but by simply allowing yourself to be human for a few hours. Complicated, contradictory, beautifully imperfect human. The various departments of your mind begin to stir, like a house gently coming awake. But something has changed. The frantic energy is softer now, the urgency less urgent, as if everyone remembered in their sleep that most things can wait. Your perfectionist brain stretches and yawns. That was nice. I dreamed I was average, and it felt amazing. Your anxiety in turn emerges from a pile of cushions made of resolved worries. I dreamed that everything I forgot to do turned out not to matter. Even your inner critic looks refreshed. I had the strangest dream that I gave someone a compliment, and the world didn't end. The quality control manager appears one last time, carrying a tray of morning tea that smells like possibility and fresh starts. How are we feeling? They ask. You consider the question seriously. How are you feeling? Rested, yes. But more than that, you feel like someone who remembered something important. That you don't have to earn peace. You don't have to perfect rest. You don't have to optimize your way to contentment. Sometimes, you just have to close your eyes and trust that you're enough, exactly as you are, dreams and worries and all. I feel you search for the right word. Ready. Ready for what? You smile. To be human for another day. The manager nods approvingly. Perfect answer. Now, shall we head to consciousness? I believe your day is beginning. As you walk toward the gentle doorway that leads back to waking life, you notice that you're not the same person who lay down last night. Not dramatically different, not transformed, just rested in the deepest, truest sense of the word. And as the first hints of actual morning begin to filter through your actual window, you carry with you the memory of this journey through the landscape of your mind. You carry the knowledge that rest is not a reward for productivity, but a birthright for being alive. You carry the understanding that your thoughts will always chatter, but you don't always have to listen. And you carry in your pocket a small stone that reminds you you already know how to rest. You're doing it right now. But morning, as mornings do, arrives whether you're ready or not. The first thing you notice is that your alarm hasn't gone off yet. This immediately triggers your internal morning audit committee, who springs into action like a team of caffeinated accountants. Wait, says the committee chair, consulting an invisible clipboard. If the alarm hasn't gone off, what time is it? Did we oversleep? Did we undersleep? Is undersleep even a word? Should we Google it? You keep your eyes closed and breathe slowly, remembering the worry stone in your mental pocket. Actually, you hear yourself say to the committee, "What if we just see what happens?" The committee falls silent. This is apparently not in their procedural manual. Your perfectionist brain, still wearing yesterday's loosened tie, peers over the committee's shoulder. See what happens. Without a plan, without consulting our morning optimization spreadsheet. Revolutionary, you murmur, still not opening your eyes, and so you lie there, in the soft space between sleep and wake, doing nothing productive except breathing and being warm under covers and listening to the world slowly coming alive outside your window. It's extraordinary, this ordinariness. Your anxiety intern, now wearing fuzzy slippers instead of business shoes, shuffles into your consciousness. I prepared a list of things to worry about today, but honestly, I'm not feeling it. Maybe I'll worry about them after lunch. This level of casual postponement of worry feels revolutionary. You hear sounds from outside, a car door closing, someone walking a dog, the distant hum of a coffee shop opening up for business, normal sounds of normal people doing normal things. And you realize you're one of them, just a normal person, in a normal bed, in a normal morning. Not because you failed to be extraordinary, but because extraordinary is overrated. Your inner wisdom, still in their knitted peace rectangle, speaks up from their corner. You know, some of the most revolutionary acts are invisible, like choosing to rest, like refusing to optimize every moment, like believing you're enough without proof. The worry stone in your mental pocket grows slightly warmer. Your inner critic, who apparently learned to knit during the night, is working on what appears to be a scarf made of gentleness. I've been thinking, they say quietly. Maybe I could try offering feedback instead of criticism. You know, like suggesting rather than condemning. That sounds, you say, remarkably reasonable. I know, they reply, looking surprised. I'm not sure where that came from. As the morning light grows stronger, your various mental departments begin their daily startup routine. But it's different now, less frantic, more like a team that has learned to trust each other instead of constantly double-checking each other's work. The productivity police arrive for their morning briefing, but even they seem more relaxed. Their uniforms are less pressed, their clipboards less urgent. Today's agenda, asks the chief of productivity. You consider this. Yesterday, this question would have triggered an immediate mental PowerPoint presentation, complete with goals, metrics, and contingency plans. Today, you simply say, whatever needs doing. The chief blinks. That's refreshingly vague. I prefer appropriately flexible, you correct gently. Somewhere in the distance, you hear your actual alarm clock preparing to ring. In about 7 minutes, by your internal calculation, you could check the time, but somehow you don't need to. Your body knows when it's had enough sleep. Your mind knows when it's ready to engage with the day. Your heart knows that you're safe and rested and capable of whatever comes next. This knowing feels like a small miracle. The sleep department representative appears one final time wheeling a cart labeled takeaways for the waking world. They hand you a small package. A few things for the road. Inside, you find a mental bookmark for the spot where rest lives, so you can find it again when you need it. A reminder card that says, your worth is not your productivity. In elegant, impossible to argue with handwriting. A tiny jar labeled emergency piece. Shake gently when overwhelmed. And a photo of your mind's landscape, not at its most organized or optimized, but at its most at peace. These aren't magic, the representative explains. They're just reminders of what you already know. Sometimes, knowing something and remembering something are two different things. You tuck these treasures into the pockets of your consciousness, next to the worry stone and all the other recovered pieces of yourself. The alarm clock begins its gentle song. You must have set it to the bird sounds, setting at some point, though you don't remember when. You open your eyes. Realize this time, the ceiling looks exactly the same as it did when you closed them. The room is still your room. The morning is still the morning. But something fundamental has shifted in the landscape of your inner world. You don't spring out of bed with purpose and determination. You don't lie there paralyzed by the day's demands. You simply get up when your body is ready, at its own pace. You put your feet on the floor, actual feet on actual floor, and stand slowly, carrying with you the memory of a sleep that asked nothing of you, except that you let it happen. As you move through your morning routine, you notice small changes. You brush your teeth without mentally rehearsing the day's schedule. You make coffee without optimizing the brewing time. You glance in the mirror, and instead of immediately cataloging flaws, you simply nod at yourself, a greeting between old friends. Your perfectionist brain, transitioning back to daytime operations, looks around uncertainly. So, what's the plan for being better today? You pause, coffee mug halfway to your lips. What if, you say, the plan is just to be, and for the first time in perhaps years, that sounds like the most sensible plan of all. The day stretches ahead, full of ordinary tasks and normal challenges and regular human things. But you meet it differently now. Not as a warrior charging into battle, not as a student trying to pass a test, just as someone who slept well and woke up human and is ready to be beautifully, imperfectly present for whatever unfolds. The worry stone pulses gently in your mental pocket. You already know how to rest. And now, you remember. 3 days later, it's 11:47 p.m., and you find yourself back where this all began, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling behind your closed eyelids, consulting your internal sleep consultant once again. But something is different this time. Your anxiety intern walks into your consciousness, carrying a much smaller clipboard. Good evening, they say politely. I have 3 items for tonight's worry agenda, instead of the usual 37. Shall I proceed? Sure, you say, amused by their newfound efficiency. Item 1. Did I respond to Mom's text about Sunday dinner? Item 2. Is tomorrow's presentation adequate? Item 3. Why did I say you too when the cashier said happy birthday, even though it's not my birthday? You consider these worries with the gravity they deserve. Item 1. I'll check my phone after this mental meeting. Item 2. The presentation is prepared and will be fine. Item 3. The cashier probably thought it was charming. The intern nods seriously, making notes. Excellent. All items satisfactorily addressed. Meeting adjourned. Sweet dreams. And with that, they walk away, switching off the overhead office lights as they go. Your perfectionist brain appears, also carrying less baggage than usual. just a small day planner instead of the usual filing cabinet. I reorganized our mental filing system, they announce proudly. I created a new category, things that are fine as they are. It's surprisingly full. That sounds very efficient, you tell them. I know, right? I also instituted Good Enough Fridays, where we don't second guess decisions that are already made. You smile in the darkness. Your perfectionist brain, learning to be satisfied with satisfaction, feels like a small revolution. Even your inner critic has evolved. They appear wearing what can only be described as a cardigan of constructive feedback. I've been practicing, they say. Instead of immediately pointing out what's wrong, I've started with what's working. It's unexpectedly pleasant. What's working tonight? You ask. They consult a small notebook. Well, you're in bed at a reasonable hour. You completed your tasks for the day without drama. You were kind to yourself when you spilled coffee on your shirt this morning. You called your sister just to chat, not because you felt obligated. And right now, you're having a civilized conversation with your own thoughts instead of wrestling them into submission. This list of mundane accomplishments feels more satisfying than any performance review you've ever received. The sleep department representative arrives right on schedule, wheeling their card of comfort and perspective. Welcome back, they say warmly. How was your day in the waking world? You think about this seriously. Normal. Good normal. I worried about appropriate things for appropriate amounts of time. I was productive without being frantic. I rested when I was tired without feeling guilty. I made mistakes without catastrophizing. Sounds perfectly human. They approve. As you settle into the familiar rhythm of preparing for sleep, you notice something remarkable. It's become easier, not because you've mastered some technique or found the perfect routine, but because you've made peace with the process itself. Sleep is no longer something you achieve. It's something you allow. Your various mental departments have learned to clock out gradually instead of all at once. They chat quietly in the hallways of your mind, comparing notes about the day, but without urgency. See you tomorrow. Your anxiety intern calls to your perfectionist brain as they head to their respective rest areas. Try not to optimize anything while you sleep. Your perfectionist brain calls back. No promises, laughs the intern. The quality control manager stops by for a final check. How are we feeling about tonight's sleep goals? We have sleep goals, you ask. Ah, I see you've graduated from our program, they say with satisfaction. No goals necessary, just sleep. As your breathing deepens and your body settles into the mattress like it's returning home, you carry with you the knowledge that you've successfully learned something impossible to teach: how to be gentle with yourself. It's not a skill you master once and then possess forever. It's more like a muscle you strengthen through practice, a friendship you develop through consistent kindness, a language you become fluent in one word at a time. Tonight, as you drift toward dreams that may or may not mean anything, you wrap yourself in this hard-earned gentleness like a blanket knitted from your own forgiveness. Your last conscious thought before sleep takes you is neither worry nor to-do list nor analysis of the day's performance. It's simply, I'm glad I'm me. And in the soft darkness of your room and the softer darkness of impending sleep, that gladness expands until it fills every corner of your consciousness, making room for dreams that are exactly as they should be: unplanned, unoptimized, and utterly, beautifully yours. The worry stone glows softly in your mental pocket. You already know how to rest, and tomorrow you'll remember again. Sweet dreams, fellow human. You're doing just fine. End of Volume 1. The Perfectionist's Guide to Imperfect Sleep. Coming soon. Volume 2. The Overthinker's Manual for Quiet Mornings. But for now, just sleep. You're lying there again, back in the sacred, slightly chaotic theater of your mind. The lights are dim. The audience is sleepy. Even the overthinking intern has yawned 3 times already and is now scribbling, maybe tomorrow, on their notepad instead of, what if everything goes wrong? It's just you and your brain tonight. And your brain, bless its overachieving heart, still thinks it needs to pitch a TED Talk titled Resting, a masterclass in doing nothing but doing it well. So let's begin this encore with something simple, something radical. Let's breathe. Not like we're auditioning for a role in a documentary about mountain air or whatever. Just regular breath. The kind that happens whether you're paying attention or not. In, out. No graphs, no timers, no app tracking your oxygen saturation levels. Just breath. And while we're at it, let's check in with your brain one more time. How's it doing? Still trying to optimize the nap? Still drafting emails in your head about how you'll improve next time? Don't worry. That's normal. Your brain didn't evolve to suddenly stop problem solving just because you closed your eyes. It evolved to survive saber-toothed tigers and spreadsheet deadlines. So, when it starts whispering things like, what if you forget to wake up? What if you dream about that one thing again? What if you drool? Just smile gently and say, thanks, but I'm not solving anything tonight. Your brain might pause, blink, maybe even tilt its metaphorical head. Then it'll probably try again, because that's what brains do. They think, even when they're supposed to be resting. But tonight, you're not fighting it. You're not arguing. You're not pulling out the mental clipboard and issuing a formal complaint. You're just here, tired, warm, wrapped in blankets like a burrito of human potential. And somewhere inside your mind, your inner critic is starting to get bored. Yes, really. They've been pacing backstage, rehearsing lines like, you could have done better today. You should have said something different earlier. Why does your left foot always feel colder than the right one? But now, they're staring at the ceiling behind your eyelids, arms crossed, sighing like someone who just realized the movie they came to watch got postponed indefinitely. They look over at you. You're really not going to fix anything tonight, are you? Nope, you say, smiling into the dark. Not even a little bit? Nope. They huff and sit down on a nearby, imaginary bench. Well, fine. I guess I can rest too. And just like that, your brain starts to quiet down. Not because you silenced it, but because you stopped feeding it drama. You roll onto your side, or maybe your back, or maybe you refloating slightly above the mattress in a state of semi-consciousness that defies physical laws. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you're not trying so hard anymore. You're not chasing sleep like it's the last train out of town. You're not begging your body to surrender like you're negotiating with a stubborn cat. You're just letting go. And as you drift further into that soft, sleepy space, your internal cast begins to settle in for the night. Your perfectionist brain is now reading a book called Good Enough is Fine Actually. Your anxiety intern is folding laundry made entirely of resolved worries. Your inner critic is playing solitaire with cards labeled meh, and your soft self is humming a lullaby only you can hear. Outside, the wind rustles the trees. Inside, your thoughts start to blur together, like watercolor bleeding into paper. One last voice pops up from the back row of your consciousness. It's your productivity committee. We just wanted to remind you, they say urgently, that rest is part of being productive. So technically, you're still working. You smile. Thanks. But tonight, rest is just rest. They look confused. Then slowly, one by one, they nod. And then, finally, there's nothing. No voices, no questions, no agenda. Just the steady rhythm of your breath, the gentle hum of your heartbeat, the soft weight of your body sinking into the mattress like it belongs there. You are not fixing anything. You are not proving anything. You are not optimizing anything. You are simply being. And somehow, that feels like enough. Maybe more than enough. Maybe perfect. Not the kind of perfect that gets framed and put on a wall, but the kind of perfect that lives in the quiet moments between breaths, between dreams, between who you were yesterday and who you'll be tomorrow. Tonight, you are exactly where you need to be. Here, now, sleepy, safe, still, and finally, you fall asleep. Sweet dreams, friend. See you next time.